Hi, everyone. This is Gail Fowler, and Hale asked me to join in this part two of the Order of Merlin. So, what I'm going to do today is to share with you some of my memories from that lifetime. So, it was I believe it was June or July of 2021. We gathered on the Navajo Reservation up in the mountains for a little retreat or a conference, if you want to say. And while I was there with Hale, I don't remember what triggered it, but I recall him and a lifetime living with Merlin. So I saw him as a young boy and walking along Merlin. And he was taught by Merlin. And Merlin was much older at this time. And I saw his lifetime when he worked and he assisted Merlin with whatever was needed to be done. And towards the ending, I just remember that there was a time when Merlin created the Order of Merlin. And that comprised of many, you can say, sorcerers, sorceress, magicians, healers. It was made up of a lot of different people who were very gifted. And of course, this was a time when a lot of that was not well known. And sometimes it was associated with the dark arts. So that was the order was much more of a secret as well as being sacred. It was a time of pure mysticism. And so what I'm going to do is share with you the visions that I received of my lifetime back then. So as I mentioned before, I was a part of the Order of Merlin, but it really goes back before the Order of Merlin began, because I knew Merlin way back when we came from the people known as the Picts. And so we would be considered the indigenous people of the United Kingdom. And I was a healer, as I am in this lifetime. Learned a lot about the herbs and studied a lot with the plants and worked with the animals and the people. And I would say at that time, working with Merlin, for he was one of my teachers, we learned the true art of alchemy. Because you would take one item, combine it with another to create a new item. So that is what we did. My strength was in the healings. I can see myself with my hands becoming illuminated. There's with a white light. I could actually create fire as well. Worked with the herbs, went out, spent a lot of time looking for the rare herbs to help to find the right combination to help our people to be healed. So that was something that I'm still doing to this day. Not as much going out into the forests, but more finding different herbs based on their property and combining them to help people. Especially, it's more of the releasing of pain, inflammation, and swelling. So I brought that forward from that lifetime. Now, going back to our story, I have had a red dragon with me since I was a child. And I never really knew her name. I just knew her as being loving, compassionate protector. And I would ride on her back as we journeyed through the astral planes. So when I was asked to do this recording, I thought, I need to reconnect with my dragon once again. And then when I did, she showed me the lifetime that I'm sharing with you. So she gave me her name, and it's Surey, or Suraya, excuse me, Suraya. She's this beautiful female dragon. And so part of my role in the Order of Merlin, and prior to that, was to work with the dragons, especially under the guidance of my dragon. So I can see being on the hatching floors, seeing the dragon eggs, making sure the mothers were fed well, taking care of the babies, all of that. So that's really makes sense why I had such a strong connection to the dragons. What I failed to mention in the beginning is I still do love the times of King Arthur. Dragons, the knights, the magic, the mysticism, all of that. I have loved that ever since I was a child. And now I know why. So understanding the role that I played was pretty piecemeal, because I would receive images, trying to figure out, okay, what does this mean? What does it fit? And so what I got was really a very ancient lifetime. And you could say it was before mankind really walked the earth. So in that lifetime that I was shown, my sister was Susan Goddard, and we both took care of the dragons. Now she chose to live among the humans. I chose to stay more in the forest with the dragons, more in the hidden realms. And I keep seeing, and this has happened for many decades, I believe it's me on this, it looks like a little canoe, but I'm standing up with a pole, and I'm, using the pole to pull my way through the waters. I'm wearing this beautiful red gown, and I see myself going towards a misty veil. And once I entered the veil, I was going to Avalon. And I keep having those dreams or those visions throughout. And now I can finally put them together and understand that that was my way to enter to where we mystics, as we called ourselves, lived in secrecy and lived in harmony. So one of the earliest visions I received of that lifetime was me as an infant. And I can see these vines coming in to where, I guess you could call it the bassinet, coming into me. And I see my little hand coming up, and I see the vines wrapping and going down my arms, just as if it was giving me a hug and a caress. So I believe in that lifetime, I was not all human. From what I gathered, my mother was elven and my father was human. So there were many obstacles, many changes, many secrets that I had that I needed to keep if I was to remain with the humans. So I was born on the outskirts of a town, and we stayed there. And as one who was half elven, some people call the Fays, I had a longer life. And over the years, must have experienced not very good experiences with the humans. And I believe that is where I chose to stay away. But now that I'm talking about it, I believe that the loss of my father in that lifetime was too painful. And so I realized that if I stayed away from the humans, I couldn't get attached and I wouldn't be hurt again. So thus my lifetime of living with the mystics. There were many others in the order that I met, once the order was formed. And many of them are my friends today. And it's interesting, in the Order of Merlin, there were so many people trying to show that they were the most powerful, the most gifted. And my role in that lifetime was interesting. I was known as a keeper of the dragons, or the healer of the dragons. Yet I did not wish to be known by the strengths. I just did my work. And I found that my role was more of a mediator, trying to keep the peace, letting those know when they were getting a little too big for their britches and acting out. I would quietly speak to them and remind them that we are all gifted, we are all equals, and we are stronger when we work together rather than working individually. And what was interesting is, although I may have been small in stature like I am in this lifetime, nobody messed with me, partly because of my connections to the dragons. So I was one of a peacekeeper and a healer and an alchemist in the Order of the Merlin. One of the visions I've shown, it was pretty funny. There are many tales back in the medieval days of maidens being offered to the dragons, either for to bring peace and harmony, for protection of the towns, or what have you. And I remember seeing this visions of myself or Susan in that lifetime going out to save these maidens because the dragons would not hurt them. They didn't like humans. It didn't taste good, is what Syria is saying. So we would take these young maidens and they would come to work with us, for they did not wish to go home because they were being offered a sacrifice. So they came to work and to assist, and they found a life of fulfillment. So a lot of the stories about King Arthur and the Round Table, the connection with Merlin, and how Merlin trained King Arthur, how Merlin actually cloaked Uther Pendragon, who was the father of Merlin, so that he could lay with, I believe she was the Lady Igraine, who was Merlin's mother. All of that is what I remember hearing about, but not necessarily playing a role in. I do recall keeping an eye out for Arthur, because we were told by Merlin that he is the true king, or the one and future king. I do recall a situation where Susan in that lifetime questioned Merlin. Why did he do such a thing? Why did he create such a situation of deceit? And that this poor woman who believed she was laying with her husband who was in fact Uther Pendragon, bore a child that was in all purposes not her husband's, and being claimed later as the gifted one. So Merlin had this very unique personality, I guess his views. He was very strict. He knew what he wanted to do. He was very wise. And so it was more of, don't really question why he did things, but that we learn the purposes of his actions, and then teaching us how to be able to remove the personal feelings and use the greater goodness to guide us. Well, I did not do well with it. And I'm kind of the same way now, because I'm more about protecting the individuals and respecting their beliefs, their individualities. So I guess I wasn't that great of a student per se, but I was able to master many of what were my natural gifts. So watching out for King Arthur, or in that time, the young boy Arthur, was not really a full-time job per se, but I was deemed as one of the many watchers to ensure that Arthur grew to manhood, to be able to take on the roles that he was born to do. So when I thought about what may have been my lifetime back in those days, I had thought maybe I was going to be a lady in waiting, or someone much closer to the creation of the Knights in the Round Table, of Camelot, and all of that. So I was kind of disappointed at first, because I thought, but how do I know so much and feel the love there? Well, I was still there, but I was not one of the so-called main characters. As I mentioned before, I was an observer, but it was a great time. Even through the bad, even through the darkness versus the light, it was a beautiful time to live. And when I recall the memories, it just makes me feel a connection back to home. So I hope you enjoy my retelling of my lifetime there. And please look forward to hear the others and their stories. There are many times when we did gather, and I do recall us being all in the same room. Not always fun-loving. There were some fights, some arguments, but it's the camaraderie that is there and still brings us together in this lifetime. So thank you very much.